Former President Donald Trump making a demand, not from his fellow GOP on Capitol Hill, but from those who work in the building across the street from the U.S. Capitol at the U.S. Supreme Court. Earlier today on Truth Social, Trump said in part, "Crazy. My political opponent has hit me with a barrage of weak lawsuits which require massive amounts of time and money to adjudicate. This is not a level playing field. It is election interference, and the Supreme Court must intercede." Harvard Law Professor Emeritus and author of the book Get Trump, Alan Dershowitz, joins me. Good evening, sir. And is there any conceivable theory how President Trump, former President Trump, could get this to the Supreme Court, if the Supreme Court take it at this point?
Yes, there is. That is, if he makes a motion immediately, I think he should have made it 2 days ago, to transfer the case out of the District of Columbia and to recuse the judge who has shown bias toward him, and then do an interlocutory appeal immediately to the Court of Appeals, ask them to skip and take it right up to the Supreme Court. There is a procedure for doing that. There's no procedure for simply having the Supreme Court intervene and say, no, we can't be tried at all. But there is a procedure for making sure the case is tried in a district that is not 95% anti-Trump, the most anti-Trump district in the United States. And I agree. I think the trial should be on television. Let the American public see if this judge is capable of doing fair justice. Remember, she comes from a law firm, Boies Schiller, which has a long history of conflicts of interest, a long history of accusations of corruption, a long history of being charged with conflicts. I beat them in a case not so long ago where I charged that they had a conflict and they were removed from the case. So this is the wrong judge in the wrong place. And the Supreme Court had set it straight and have the trial in a fair district, in front of a fair district judge, so we can show China and we can show Russia and we can show our friends and adversaries that we can do justice fairly.
All right, let me talk about Boies Schiller for just 1 second. You missed one thing. According to my research, unless it's wrong, is that she left the firm in 2014 when she was put on the bench. Now, about 2009-ish, she was a partner there. By 2009-ish, someone became of counsel to the firm. His name, Hunter Biden. So there's some sort of overlap there. And we really don't, while it might not be a real conflict or actual conflict, it certainly seems to me the appearance of something. Why create this problem when it's likely, because the more money he brought into the firm as of counsel or she brought in as partner would necessarily inure to the benefit of the other likely. So, you talk about about the law firm. It's, I always follow the money. If there's any chance that there's ever any sort of money, whether it's good faith, honest, or whatever, this is why poison the proceedings.
No, I agree with you. And, the United States Supreme Court has said it's not the job of the prosecutor only to do justice. It must be seen to be doing justice. This is such an important case, and it is potentially interfering with an election, that it has to be absolutely clear. What we can't have is a situation where Trump is convicted by an unfair jury and an unfair judge, then the election occurs, and then it's reversed on appeal, because I think it would be reversed on appeal. But this is a perfect time for rarely allowed, but allowing an interlocutory appeal on the issue of venue and on the issue of recusal. So I think that's the right approach.
All right, talk to me about change of venue, because obviously if you've got a federal court in Richmond, Virginia, and you get change of venue, you get sent up to Alexandria, Virginia, because it's in the same state, multiple federal courts in the state. What do you do in a jurisdiction like D.C. where there is no other federal court? And and this is our jurisdiction. So is there precedent for moving it to another state? Absolutely.
I had a case some years ago, a New York case. It was moved up to Connecticut, and because of problems of fair trial. And I've seen other cases over the years where a jury trial can be moved from one state to the other. I think in this case, the prosecution ought to agree to that. It claims to have a strong case. And if it does have a strong case, it should be able to win it anywhere and in front of any judge. And shouldn't allow an appellate issue to interfere with that.
Well, yesterday Jack Smith did a little jab to the president when he said, the former president, he said that he's entitled to a speedy trial. Of course he's entitled to a speedy trial. The Constitution says that, and of course there's the Speedy Trial Act, the federal act. But here you've got a situation where the government's been working on this for, 2 or 3 years. They have, I don't know how many lawyers. They've had grand juries. They've had FBI agents. And now suddenly he wants a speedy trial. He's talking about a speedy trial for the defendant when it's so uneven. How does one person person when you've got they've got such a head start. The
Well, it's
government,
worse than that.
how can possibly it be fair that way?
Well, there's another problem, too. He has trouble getting good lawyers because the 65 Project has threatened to disbar and discipline any lawyer who represents Trump. And remember, too, there are 5 lawyers who are mentioned as unindicted co-conspirators. So with one hand, they're trying to say, let's have a fast trial before you have a chance to really study the 2 years of work that we've done. And on the other hand, they're saying, we're not going to give you the lawyers that you would like to have, because we're going to intimidate them, and we're going to make sure that good lawyers don't want to have happen to them what's happened to so many lawyers who have been associated with Trump.
Do you know what the irony of this is? That I used to represent people charged with murder, and people would, I never got ostracized. I mean, and I was never for murder or anything, but you dare represent Donald Trump, you're going to be ostracized. I mean, it's just amazing how they made it. Okay.
Let me give you an example of what's occurring while we speak. A mile from here, Martha's Vineyard has its book fair. I am probably the man who's written more books than any person in the history of Martha's Vineyard. And I've probably sold more books than anybody who's speaking at the book fair. But I've been canceled. My books are not allowed to be sold at the Martha's Vineyard Chilmark Book Fair because I defended Donald Trump. Until I defended Donald Trump, my books were featured every year at the book fair. I couldn't care less about that. I sell thousands of books.
Yeah,
but you think the people of Martha's Vineyard would want to make sure that a book fair doesn't become a book unfair, in which people are canceled because of exercising Sixth Amendment and First Amendment rights. Shame on the Chilmark and Martha's Vineyard Book Fair.
Professor Alan Dershowitz, thank you.
Thank you.